Welcome to PlanStrongerTV. I'm your host, David Holland. Retirement is supposed to be your golden years, right? But for many retirees and those who hope to be soon, the transition to retirement can be a very stressful time. It doesn't have to be if you're prepared for what may lie ahead. On today's episode, I'm joined by licensed psychologist Dr. Dorian Mintzer, an expert on the subject. Stick around. Welcome to the program. So excited to be with you today, and I have to tell you, I am having a hard time containing myself. I'm so excited to have our guest today, Dorian Mintzer. She's going to be joining us to talk about the issues in retirement. So let's get right to it. Dory, welcome.
Thank you.
So glad to have you.
Well, thank you.
Oh, I can't contain myself. I've followed your work for many decades. That's how long you've been doing this. I've followed your work in recent years. And I'm excited for you to be with us to talk to the audience about some of the issues related to retirement transitions. So let's get a little bit of a background about you and your work. So you have a Ph.D. And you are a licensed psychologist.
I am.
And I gave it away already. You've done this for 4 decades?
My clinical work has been for 4 decades, yeah, 4 decades plus.
Wonderful. And you've also written the book, The Couples Retirement Puzzle. And there's a subtitle.
It's the Couples Retirement Puzzle, 10 Must-Have Conversations for Creating an Amazing New Life Together.
Okay.
And so I'm co-author of it.
You're a co-author, all right. And
yeah.
Roberta Taylor is the other co-author.
Right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We're going to see if we can get Roberta on the program too. So one of the things that I understand that you do in your work is you work a lot with couples and individuals and help them with a lot of the issues related to retirement. And there's a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with finances. Right. But then again, some that does. Right. So I wanted, if we could, I know you've worked on this recently, you identified kind of the 10 big retirement transition issues. And what prompted you to identify those 10?
Well, you know, when we were writing the book, we had some focus groups. And so the focus groups combined with clinical work, these issues just came up over and over again. Okay. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's the issues that people said were the most pressing issues to think about during this second half of life. Okay,
so you've got David's top 10, you got Dorian Roberta's top 10 retirement issues. Okay, so I want to get to as many as we can, but realistically, I know we won't get to all of them, and we'll have you back and we'll do another program to talk about the ones we don't get to. Okay. So let's dive in and get to them. So the first is probably, I think, one of the key ones that I deal with as a financial planner is timing. They say timing's everything, especially when it comes to retirement. You know, you don't want to turn in your resignation from your job if you're not really ready, because it's hard to get back into the same position. So what should couples or individuals, but especially couples, think about when it comes to the timing of retirement?
Well, you know, there's no right and wrong about the timing of retirement. I want to put it in a context that the whole concept of retirement is changing. You know, many people don't want to retire. Many people can't afford to retire because the reality is we're living so much longer. Sure. And if you're in a relationship, there are many more dual career couples. And the jury is not out if it's better to retire at the same time if you're going to retire or separately. But there's so many different options now. Some people love what they're doing and they want to continue working. And they love earning the extra money. Some, as I said, need to keep working because they don't want to outlive their money.
Right, financially.
But some people don't want to work in the same way. So they want to think about, is there a way, and you know, some industries are better than others for this, but are there ways to maybe phase out of my working? Is there a way to do it part-time? Some people actually reach a point where they say, you know, been there, done that. Yeah. You know, I don't want to do this anymore, but I have skills that I want to use and share.
And maybe just do it another way.
And do it another way. There's a movement called Encore, encore.org, that help people often use their skills and maybe work for nonprofits, or become an entrepreneur.
Okay.
There's no right way. But the important thing is to kind of puzzle it out. It's part of why I like the concept puzzle.
Couples were puzzles.
Because it's a noun and it's a verb. And the pieces of your life or these issues fit together in different ways. They impact each other. And you've got to think about it. You've got to puzzle it out for yourself as an individual or with whoever's significant in your life.
I've had a lot of people come to me, Dory, and say, look, I'm not sure when I want to retire, but I want to know that I can, and I want to know what my options are, and can I make this transition to an encore career? Can I work part-time? And the answer is a tentative yes, depending on their circumstances and what we can do. But just the idea of knowing that they can retire or when they can retire brings them clarity. And I know that you're a lot about bringing clarity and focus to this subject, because that makes it a little easier to think through the decisions and make sure that they're doing what they want to do for the right reason, and it's not just the paycheck. And also you bring up another critical point, which is about the timing as it relates to a couple in a financial relationship where they need to decide, hopefully together, about how they're going to retire, and can they time it to where they can do it together, which for a lot of people, that's a challenge.
Oh, it's definitely a challenge. And that's where the concept of puzzle, I think, is so great. So finances aren't everything, but finances really underpin.
It's the river that runs through it.
Yeah, it's a tool to be able to have life goals.
Yeah.
And that's where I think financial planners like you, with a holistic view, frame, are so important, so that you think about, what do I need in order to live the kind of life I want? And that may help people realize they need to keep working, or save or invest. It's another piece of the puzzle that impacts others. The other part I wanted to really stress, if I could, in terms of the timing, is one thing that I've really learned over the years is, when you think about it, work and active parenting provides connection, engagement, purpose, meaning, community, time together and apart if you're in a relationship.
Right.
A reason to get out of bed in the morning. And what I found is, if people actually are thinking about wanting to retire, or maybe your kids are off in college or doing whatever, it's important to think about, how are you going to build those things into your life?
Yeah.
So that maybe is where encore careers come in.
Sure.
A dear friend of mine, who's a role model of mine, Jan Hively, who's 85, says meaningful work, paid or unpaid, through the last breath. And I really subscribe to that.
I love that. Well, and this idea of work to 65 and then stop and never work again is a recent American, and not just America, but a recent social phenomenon. If we go back in time and history, people worked till they had their last breath.
Right.
And the other thing you made me think of, Dory, which I think is very important for our viewers, is that sometimes business people and entrepreneurs especially, they need permission. They need to hear, you've won. You've done it. You've got enough money to retire. Because for a lot of people, it's hard to say, okay, I'm where I need to be. But there's another piece of this, which I know you focus on substantially. And it's the third item that we want to talk about, is health. All work and no play makes Jack an unhealthy boy.
No, absolutely. And there actually have been very important studies saying that by the time you're 65, it's actually only 30% genetics, 30% genes.
Really?
And 70% is attitude, lifestyle, taking care of your body and brain, spirituality, purpose and meaning. So there's a lot we can control. We can't control it all.
Right.
And no matter how well you take care of ourselves, we're all going to get older and eventually die. But how you live, I really do feel strongly with living longer, it's a time to very much embrace these years. And it's a time to grow, learn, and evolve. It's a paradigm shift.
It is.
It's not all downhill anymore.
Right.
But if you believe it is, it will become all downhill.
Well, they call that a self-fulfilling prophecy, or self-delusion, or there's a saying, and I can't get the proper attribution for the quote, but it's something like, if you don't make time to be healthy now, you'll have to make time for being sick later.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, there's a
Right.
balance here, and for a lot of people, there's a concern. And of course, this is why I do what I do with the financial planning, is helping people realize that they do have enough and they can retire, they can stop, they can travel. There are some financial people, Dorian, I'm sure you've met some, that they think their purpose is to tell people no all the time, and that everything has to be ultra prudent. And I've told more people yes than I've told them no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you need to start traveling now. You need to fly and go and do, because 10 years from now, you're not going to have the same energy or be in the same place, and things happen. Don't wait. And you really, that kind of brings us to the next of the topics, is about identity. You know, for a lot of people, they probably, as they're making this transition, and I have no plans to retire anytime soon. I love my job and I love the work I do with people. But for a lot of people, there's, as you said before, there's a lot of identity tied up in our work and our family.
Right.
So how do people redefine or rethink or embrace and focus on who they're going to be in retirement, or this encore chapter
Right.
of their life?
It's a very, very important area, David. And, you know, for some people, it's like, I am my CV. But we're more than that. And it's
Boy,
an
I hope so.
opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to really sometimes think about, what things did I have to put on the back burner? Because, you know, I had to kind of take care of making a living and raising a family. It's a chance, actually, if you think about it, to become more whole, to integrate those parts of you that you maybe had to put on the back burner. But there are things that happen in midlife. I mean, people do get this sort of uneasiness, kind of, I call it nudginess. It's like, who am I? And if you're in a relationship, it can be, who are you?
And who are we?
And who are we? And what's the meaning of it all? And as we get older, often our definition of success begins to change.
That's true.
So that it's a little less of how others evaluate us and more from, you know, what's important to me inside.
There's something that must go on when we get to what we deem or consider midlife, which is different for different people, that it's almost like we have this realization where we know that there's less time ahead than there was that's gone. And our hard drives, our minds, our hard drives are getting more and more full. And we realize that, and we look back on those prior experiences and think, yeah, I could have done things differently, but I have this time ahead of me. I need to now make up for maybe some things that I haven't done, that I shoulda, coulda, woulda done and didn't. So now, and that's what I think a lot of people have, this midlife moment. And that, of course, can have a lot of impact on the couple, and again, the couple's retirement puzzle, and how that affects their relationship.
No, there's no question about that. And, you know, one thing just as a frame, and then I'll kind of respond to the question that you have, is studies in positive psychology say that well-being is connection, engagement, and purpose and meaning. And that's going to be different for everybody. But I think it's important to think about, for yourself, whether you're working or not, or in a relationship or not, what gives you connection, engagement, and purpose and meaning. It doesn't mean just being busy for the sake of being busy, but it means really being connected, sort of viewing yourself as maybe part of a larger whole. I think that's very important. And tied into that is this sense of beginning to think about, I am more than just my work. And for some people, it's much easier because they have hobbies.
Right.
For others, it's a matter of trying to think about, what were some of the things you were interested in when you were younger
And didn't
that
get consumed by the
didn't get
work.
to do.
Right.
And the other thing I want to really stress to your listeners is, you don't need to wait until you're contemplating retirement to think about these things. You know, I like to work backwards. And, you know, if the goal is you want to reach the end of your life without regrets, then it's important to really clarify, what are things that are important to me to do, to say, to be, and then you work backwards. So at whatever age you are, to begin to say, okay, if I don't want to reach the end with regrets, how do I, with some consciousness and intention, begin to live my life now? And I think it's important, whether you're in a relationship or single, to think about your own individual vision, what's important to you, and then if you're in a relationship, hopefully your partner will do the same thing. Or if you're not in a relationship, there may be siblings, there may be good friends, there may be adult children. And then you talk together, so you create what we call in the book a shared vision, which needs to be just like a financial portfolio. It needs to be flexible. You
And
need
diversified.
And diversified, and you need to reevaluate it periodically. Monitor it, because health changes. There are curveballs in life. Finances may change. Needs of, you know, other people that you feel responsible for may change. So you need to be flexible. It just can't be written in stone, but it's important to think about what will make me feel alive.
Right.
What's
A life without
important to
regrets.
me.
I don't think it gets better than that.
Yeah, and maybe there always are going to be some,
of course,
but
sure.
but the point is, at the point that you're starting to think about it, to really think about what's really important to me. If I were told by a doctor that I was going to be dying in 24 hours, what would I really feel like? Oh my gosh, I didn't do that, or I didn't say that. And don't wait for that. Do it now.
Well, we all are going to pass at some point, and it is a matter of hours. It's just a question of how many. We don't have the ability today for a doctor to tell us the number of hours, and I'm not sure I want to know, because that's a whole nother psychology. I'd have to bring in a couch story, and we can talk about it. But I think the other thing that is important to recognize, and I know you've spoken to this, is also the balance of time together and time alone. And my joke for you is that wives often tell their husbands that I married you for lunch, or I married you for dinner, not for lunch.
Right.
And so.
And not 24/7.
Not 24/7. Especially, hey, slow down, back up, Mr. Control and command from your work, and it's different here in the house. Right. So, well, listen, Dory, I really appreciate you coming and spending time with us. Dr. Dorian Mintzer, ladies and gentlemen, author of The Couple's Retirement Puzzle, and visiting us in Daytona Beach here in the studio, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts. So glad to have your expertise, and we'll have you back, and we'll finish up the other 5 topics of the retirement transitions.
Great.
Thank you, Dory.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank you so much for being with me.
Thanks. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Should I buy gold? That's one of the questions I've gotten most consistently over the last 20 years. I understand the question very well. In fact, I understand the question behind the question. Let me explain. Gold has been sought after for thousands of years. It has always been seen as having a value in and of itself, not just for what it can be used to buy as a form of currency. According to numbersleuth.org, about 165,000 tons of gold have been mined over the years. Understandably, estimates on how much is left vary widely, but many experts say there's still another 150,000 tons of gold in the ground. Whatever that number, what is certain is unless a gold-filled asteroid hits the Earth, there's only so much of it left. Gold's value, however, doesn't just come from the scarcity and beauty. It also has some unusual qualities that make it valuable. Besides jewelry, it has many industrial and manufacturing uses because gold conducts electricity and also doesn't tarnish or rust. That gives it a lot of special uses that create value. With all that said, why do investors and individuals buy gold? I think there are at least 5 different types of gold buyers: collectors, survivalists, speculators, inflation hedgers, and what I call the uncertain. Each of these buyers has a particular reason for buying gold. I'm not here to judge anybody or even tell you whether to buy gold or any other precious metal. My gold goal is to help you make logical decisions. Let's take a look at each of these gold buyers. First, the collector. This is probably the easiest one to understand. You like gold coins and you like to buy them even more, then have at it. I collect vintage cufflinks and ties. While all of us have our thing, we vary in what we do. Next is the survivalist. This may be an oversimplification, so I apologize in advance if my generalization offends anyone. But some people simply buy gold because they believe there's a good chance our financial system will collapse and paper money will become worthless. They want some, if not most of their money in something they believe won't lose value. While I personally don't think our system is going to fail or that we're going to have a broader economy, I respect those who hold this opinion. Again, no judgment here. The third type of gold buyer is the speculator. This is an investor who believes that gold is going to go up significantly in value at some point in the future, and they're willing to bet on it. Investors bet on all sorts of things, including the price of oil, bacon, and orange juice, so why not gold? Fourth on our list of gold buyers is the inflation hedger. Gold has long been touted as a hedge against inflation. I will tell you that gold might help to fight inflation, but how much depends on what's causing the inflation and what is happening to our overall economy. Historically, other investments like the stock market have been a better hedge against inflation in my view. Gold, however, has always been widely recognized as a crisis hedge. If you look back at different world events and economic situations, you will see that many investors have flocked to gold and other safer investments when there's a crisis. Supply and demand. When there's a lot of demand for gold and the supply remains the same, the price will go up. The fifth gold buyer is what I call the uncertain. This is a person who's worried and anxious about their financial future, the economy, our nation's debt, or some other potential problem that causes them to gravitate toward the perceived safety of gold. The folks that sell gold are quite aware of these worries and are quite willing to stoke and capitalize on them to sell gold. You've seen the commercials, right? Now, back to the original question. Can gold be part of an overall investment portfolio? Sure. It depends on your situation. If you want to put 5 to 10% or so into gold as part of a diversified portfolio, I'm not opposed to that. What I am concerned about, though, is transferring all of your IRA into gold or going all in. I rarely see an all-in strategy work for an investor, let alone with gold. That said, I'm not oblivious to the reassurance that gold investing might offer. If you want to buy a few gold coins and put them under your pillow so you're less anxious and sleep at night, so be it. Go ahead. It'll cost less and have fewer side effects than prescription medications. I'll leave this topic with a few suggestions for you if you're thinking about getting gold. Stop and think which type of gold buyer you are and why you want to buy it. Understand that those that sell gold have a lot invested, no pun intended, in your buying gold. I'm sure celebrity spokespersons don't come cheap. And I doubt you'll see a TV commercial telling you, now is the time to sell your gold. If you do decide to buy some gold, you need to ask whoever you're going to buy it from the logistics and cost of selling it. They're going to send it to you. How do you send it back? How much will they charge to sell it for you? Are there fees and commissions? Lastly, I offer this word of advice. If you're thinking about buying gold because you're anxious, you're not alone. You're the uncertain investor I spoke about. Let's be honest, the world around us can be a scary place. But perhaps instead of reaching for gold, you should reach for a financial planner. If you are anxious, a written, personalized financial plan could help you plan better for the future. And that may ease some of your fears. Often a financial plan can be a great starting point for making financial decisions. I've seen people become much more confident about their financial futures once they had a financial plan in place. Come to think of it, maybe you should put a financial plan under your pillow instead of that gold. Remember, if you've got a question for me and you'd like me to answer it on the program, shoot me an email. Thank you. Before you go, one more thing. So I read in the newspaper recently, again, that a pastor of a church is convicted of a financial scam. Same old story, same old sad story. The pastor used his position of power, credibility, and influence to swindle money out of the members of his congregation. Good Lord. This is one I've never understood. You would think a pastor would know where he's headed for something like that. Of course, and thank God, this sort of thing isn't commonplace. There are a lot of wonderful pastors. However, you need to look out for yourself and take precautions. And I'm not just talking about clergy or church employees. I'm talking about other people in church or whatever the setting your particular faith brings you together with others. The real key to avoiding scams and other bad financial arrangements is to never lower your guard. A lot of scams are based on someone not taking normal precautions. Scammers will prey on your emotions and your trust to get you to do something you wouldn't normally do, like writing a check to someone without first getting the proposed transaction in writing and verifying it beforehand. If someone you've met at church has a legitimate business opportunity for you, they should have no problem putting it in writing and giving you as much time as you need to evaluate it. In fact, they should be the most patient with you if they're really looking out for you and consider themselves to be your brother or sister in faith, right? One more point on this. When I'm in church, I'm just David. I've helped people all week with their finances. I'm there to be replenished, not to work the donut line or try to introduce myself to everyone and solicit them to do business with me. Ugh. Be on guard for people like that. And if you do, I don't even have to say it, do I? Okay. you'll plan stronger.
If you would like more information about the topics and our guests featured in this series, please visit our website at PlanStrongerTV.com. Also, if you have a question you would like David to answer, please send it to questions@PlanStrongerTV.com.